Okay, good morning, Northwoods. How are we all today on this beautiful well, sunny-ish day in December? Hopefully you all are experiencing a little bit of good weather, but if not, that's great. We can cozy up at home. It is December after all. We are here with one of my very, very good friends. I've known this gentleman for a long time now, probably too long, but yep, keeps coming back to camp, and I'm so excited. So we're here with OJ. How's it going, OJ?
Yeah, it's good, man. Long time listener, first time caller. Happy to be on the show. Yeah, no, pretty good overall. Just dealing with COVID.
Of course, like
Best
we
we
all are.
can. Yeah, just as we all are. Fortunately, to stayed employed the whole time during the run, so not many complaints on that front.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, employment is good. Pays those bills, right?
Yep,
And
because they're not
yeah,
going away.
and you're still popping up to camp, trying to volunteer a little bit during this year, right?
Yeah, this summer I managed to get up there for 3 weeks during the summer, just to help out with the pod. Got tested before I went up, and I got the all clear to go up.
Great.
And then I've been up to work weekends setting up the compost and the new garden beds we're putting in.
Oh, that's
So that's
fantastic.
also good. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun.
yeah, I heard a lot about that. Like we got like this composting thing. We're gonna have some gardens. It's gonna be pretty good, right? Do you know anything else about that? Like, because
Yeah,
even
so
I'm not sure.
so the goal with that is to try and make camp more sustainable. So the purpose of the gardens is to actually supplement food that we're buying from for the dining halls. Because one of the camps that they set up this program in originally, all their lettuces, all their vegetables come straight from their garden now because they've kept expanding it over time. So now I think their camp's a lot smaller than ours, but we are currently in the process of putting in 10 beds. I believe we have about six in so far. This upcoming summer will be the first summer where we have fruits and vegetables grown on the property, going straight into the kitchen. Any excess that will go straight to food pantries for people in low income areas that don't, or that are in food deserts. So they'll be able to get healthier food.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know we've been talking about doing this type of thing at camp for a long time, and it's great now that we can finally start to implement that and using the stuff that we grow. It's perfect. And the beauty of it is all the campers get to do this and experience it and grow and then they're going to be eating the stuff that they're putting in. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm so excited and
Maybe,
thank you for going up there and helping
maybe
with
we
that.
can get more campers to eat vegetables that way.
Yeah, hopefully. That's
Because they
definitely
don't.
an upside.
Just need to make the entire menu vegan for a day and see what happens.
Oh, I remember that one session when because as an avid vegetarian yourself, and you announced like, okay, so if you're a vegetarian, can you put your hand up and come and see me? And you're just standing there, and you're like, anybody, anybody? And like there was no one came up to you that session. It was very interesting.
And
Who
I
is in the
ate
wrong
like a
dining hall?
and I ate like a king that session because the only other vegetarians were on the PVC side. So there's very little competition to actually get food at dinner times. It was great.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I just remember that session quite well. It was an interesting one when that happened. Great. So OJ, so why camp? Why did you start? Obviously, you don't really sound American, but you might be a little bit, right? So what's the deal there?
Yeah, so basically, so I have dual nationality. My mother is from LA originally, and then she married my father, moved to the UK. I've actually gone this other way. I live in Boston now. But back in 2000 and the winter of 2008 at my university, we found a flyer for a program called Camp Leaders. It's one of the old companies that Camp used to hire international staff for.
Yep.
Went to a meeting for it. I thought, well, I'm not going to do anything else for my summer. It's either that or find like a job in the town, which was going to be boring anyway. So I ended up signing up for Camp Leaders, went through the application process, got into the program. They then asked me what parts of the states would I like to be doing camps at. I put California and Minnesota because that's where I have family, and then ended up in New Hampshire. So, you know, in the long term, it definitely worked out well. And when I first applied as well, because I wasn't really sure how well I'd be a counselor. Like I had questions on, oh, how long am I going to be able to do counseling? So I signed up for support staff and ended up being hired. I don't, honestly, I'm not 100% sure what my official title was that first summer. But I was basically an office worker. So it was photography, did a lot of things like that.
Yeah, so you was managing the office. I remember you was up there. You was, like I say, taking pictures, which was, we have a position for that now with the bunk one. So we take all the pictures of the kids and make sure that the parents can see their joyous boys and girls running around, and it's great and they love it. And you was kind of one of the first people to be part of that and taking pictures and doing that type of work and being in the office. I just remember coming and visiting you, and you was always inside the office. But yeah, so did you enjoy that particular role, or?
Yeah, so I mean, managing the office is very far away from what actually it was. Because it was such a new position that year. The main part of it was taking the photos of kids enjoying the activities, going around doing that. Basically, the office work I was doing is anything that when I had spare time because the photos were done or anything, was just checking in saying, hey, do you need anything else doing? So like sorting out the t-shirts, but when we give away the t-shirts every session.
Yeah, the NWs.
That sort of thing. Overall, yeah, I enjoyed the role, but I realized sort of like midway through the summer that I definitely would have preferred being a counselor because, again, with it being a new role, I almost felt isolated from the counselor group in a way of I didn't live in a cabin with kids. I was basically the over 18 person in with the CITs that year. So that's who I lived with. It was just me and the CITs. And it was funny because it was also my time off was always with all the other internationals.
Yep.
So normally our scramble was trying to find a car so we could actually go somewhere. So overall, yeah, I feel like I didn't bond with counselors as much as I could have. And that was purely down to sort of like the schedule. Like I wasn't doing activities. I'd show up your activity for like 10 minutes, take photos, and then wander back off.
Yeah, because you have to get around the whole camp to take all those pictures of everybody. So it's like hard to get that bond with some kids and the staff. So you have to kind of move around a little bit. Yeah, I remember because I think I was around like program head at that point or doing something, maybe something that job role anyway. But and you were so eager. You was like, I've got a theme day. I've got to plan this theme day. I need to help out. I was like, all right, there's one less that I have to do. I'll help you do it. But he was like, no, I've got it. I've got it. And it was Cool Runnings Day. So I don't know if any of you have seen that, but Cool Runnings, the Jamaican bobsleigh team. It was, yeah. So you want to tell us a bit about that? That was kind of a cool little day that you tried to plan.
Yeah, so that came around fourth session. It was the first, because that was back when we did 2 theme days every session. So there's a lot of work on when it came down to it, because we didn't do cabin day in the afternoons at the time. We just had cabin night. And it was, I remember I think it was going into end of third session. I was in the office doing work, and it's like, oh, who's running this theme day for the next theme day? Like, oh, we need to figure out what movie we can do for New Night. I was like, oh, Cool Runnings. It's like one of my favorite films as a kid. And you could the whole, I remember the theme days back then was there's a couple ways to do them, but you generally wanted kids to be working towards some form of goal. And all the activities they're doing is that. So the clear one for me was raising money for the Jamaican bobsled team to get to the Olympics. I remember we had Serafino play John Candy's role as the coach. He knocked that out of the park during the skit. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like none of us took it that seriously, which is exactly how you should with that film. Because we always based it on the first one on a film, because then that film was played at movie night 3 days later on the Saturday. So the kids will have an idea of like to get
What was
excited
going
for
on?
movie night. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the closing skit for that. We made a very shambolic cardboard bobsled that we then pretended to crash and ran off the pier and jumped in the lake with it.
Yeah. I just
Oh,
remember
yeah.
those counselors are like, yeah, you're gonna run into the lake with this cardboard, and that's pretty funny. Yeah, that's good.
Which wasn't the worst idea. The only thing we didn't take into account is how tight a fit the bobsled was. So there wasn't a lot of room to run when you were in it. But also, like, we went nose first off the pier, and I think I was like second in the row. So I immediately hit the person in front of me, then got hit by two people behind me. So not the best amount of planning, but I definitely learned from that experience.
Yeah, as we all do. So yeah, so that sparked the bug of being a counselor and wanting to do that. So is that the following year you came back and you was a counselor, right?
Yeah. 2010 I came back. I was a counselor. I think it showed, for me, it justified coming back immediate with the amount of guys that were just like, oh, you're back? And they seemed surprised. And I was like, oh yeah, like this is why I'm back, because I never got to know any of you. So like I actually want to like work with you guys, do counseling. I was put in the trail section. I was in Trail 5. The section heads were Keegan Hellweg and Rob Pierce the second half of the summer. And I had a great time. Like that summer was when the pontoon boat broke down. So it was out of commission. So I actually never went to Pine Island that summer.
Whoa.
I think, I never went. Oh, the first half of the summer we went to Pine, and the second half I didn't get to go to Pine. And we used a war canoe and went out to Ragged Island for the afternoon, then came back and stayed at Max's. And it was honestly, I thought that was a great trip. Like, I'm very happy to say that I've actually been in the war canoe.
Yeah, that's actually something I've never done, which is interesting. Out of my 18 years at camp, I've never been in the war canoe. It's currently in the Rorig Center in the ceiling right now as a display, which is a nice way to store it, I guess. So it's up there. But yeah, you got to experience that. It took me forever to also get to Pine Island. I think it was at least 11 summers before I went out there. As a senior section counselor myself, I never was in the trail section. So yeah, but Pine Island's beautiful. It's probably the best. And I think we got someone on the call that lived there for quite a while, right, Walter?
Yeah, I sure did. I was banished to Pine Island. I made a little mistake. I fell asleep on waterfront duty and got caught. So I was sent to Pine Island for a couple of weeks, and they just brought the kids out to me, and that was it. It was a great deal for the counselors because I got to do all of that. Whatever.
Yeah, it's an experience, right?
I didn't mind it at all because I wasn't under anybody's thumb. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Out
Sounds
on
like
Pine
you need to
Island.
bring that one back.
Oh, are you going to volunteer for that, OJ? You're going to be...
Oh, no, I just think if you fall asleep on waterfront duty, go to Pine for a week. Just
right. Well, I also lost all the days and nights off during that period of time,
So OJ, why OJ? Can we work it out? Is it obvious right now?
Oh, I don't know. Does anyone on the call want to take a stab in the dark?
About what?
Why is called OJ?
No idea.
Well, all right. So my actual name is Jack, and the first summer I worked at camp, we had a couple of Jacks on staff. So everyone started calling me Office Jack because they didn't really know me, and that was my job. I didn't even realize that was my nickname for at least 2 sessions. Until I think it was Tom Barry when I went up to do photos at archery. It's like, oh, hey, Office Jack, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that is me. And then on a day off, me and a few of the internationals went down to Boston for the night. And I think on the drive down, they were just like, we're not calling you Office Jack the whole time. just call you OJ. I was like, all right, and it's been like that ever since. There's actually like at one point it turned up on like one of the quizzes we did in the dining hall. What's OJ's real name? And nobody knew what my name was. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was such a big secret.
Yeah, it's kind of insane that you've just adopted that nickname and it's stuck, and they've been there for a long time now, and it's kind of cool. And I've had similar, like, people have like, oh, what's your last name, Jago? I was like, that is my last name. I'm like, what? And they always get confused that they don't know my first name. So that's kind of cool too. That's great. Yeah. So you mentioned that you was in the trail section. Like,
Yep.
did you like it there? I mean, it seems like, because you eventually became the senior section head, right?
Yeah, so I'd have to say the trail section is probably the trickiest section. Because after that I was with the LITs for 2 years. So even though I wasn't in a junior cabin, like I could see that going on and the problems they face. Like the trail section seems to be that combination of, like, you get the hardest parts of the senior section at times and the hardest parts of the junior section at times.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely found it to be the most challenging. It was very enjoyable though. I'm actually just gonna move because someone's about to start the dryer. Oh, there we go. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I actually thought when I was coming back so I actually missed 2011 because I was saving up money to actually emigrate out here, which, as you can see, went successfully. So 2012 I came back, and I just assumed I'd be either with the trail section, or I was sort of hoping I'd be with the seniors, because during activities they're the kids that actually connected with the most. Like I got on with them really well. And then I think we were doing a hike or something like that, or it might have been we were just in a dining hall, and in classic sort of like Miles and you fashion, turned to me and goes, "Oh, what do you think about the LITs?" I was like, "Yeah, it seemed like a cool program." And that was the conversation. And then cabin list got posted, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I'm with the LITs then." I got with Harry Abrams. It was never never like an interview for it or anything. It was just like, boom, slide you right in there.
Yeah, me and Miles, we did that a lot. Is like, you approach your counselor, yeah, what do you think about this? And they go, yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, done.
I remember. Oh no, yeah, I remember it was like 2 years later when I was in EC, and we did we did a hike up. I think it was Mount Major, and we took Sam McKnight with us, who didn't have a section or anything. And I remember driving the van back, and you two just going, "Oh, Sam, how do you think about the CITs?" And I just started laughing in the front seat because I knew what was coming. But you know, if a tactic works and it's not broke, don't fix it.
That's right. That's how we roll.
But yeah, trail section was a lot of fun. That's actually during my time in the trail section is where I got the idea for the challenge belt.
Oh yes, a very popular activity amongst the staff, and that, like, it. You definitely brought something to camp that was different, and it was kind of awesome actually. So yeah, you want to explain that, where you got it from? What was that all about?
Yeah, so I mean, like the idea, what I was trying to do when I brought that to camp was, by this point I wasn't doing full summers, sadly, because you know I actually had to start getting a career that would let me, as much as I wanted a career that would let me come back full summers, it just wasn't viable. But I was still eager to come up for at least 2 weeks to a month when I could each summer. And one thing I noticed is with our mantra of camper camp self, one thing we tend to forget about is sort of like the staff at times. And, you know, all of us are so busy with our own roles. Even when I was on EC, I realized it. Like my mantra was camper camp staff self, like put the staff ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
So coming up for like a summer, and I'm like, oh, I'm just like an extra buddy. Oh, what can I do? Like I can try and, you know, boost morale on the staff and give them something to focus on when, you know, you're starting to head towards burnout or anything like that. And I remember this thing in the trail section, which was unique to the trail section, called the challenge pole, which was just it was almost like a fence post, but like it was a bit nicer. Someone had banished it at some point.
I think it was Rob Pierce. Yeah, Rob Pierce started
it. Rob Pierce. Yeah, that sounds about right. But it was basically one cabin started off with it. Another cabin would challenge them to activity. So like basketball game or dodgeball or something random like that. And if you won, you got the pole and you wrote your name on it. And you held on to it until someone else challenged it. So I think this was 2015 is when I brought 2015 or 2016. I finally was like, all right, let's do this. So the challenge belt was just like a basic WWE belt I bought from Walmart because I needed something to represent it. And then the way it worked was if you had the belt, you could be challenged to any activity. Didn't matter what it was. Like any contest. Like I remember you actually challenged me to who could stand on one leg the longest.
Yeah, that was painful.
Yeah, that did not go well for you.
No, it did not.
And if you don't accept the challenge, you immediately concede the belt. And at the end of the session, whoever brought the belt to me at lineup won. I believe the prize was $100.
Yeah, so fantastic.
You know what? Let's make this competitive. Let's get the counselors in on it. And that thing set off like wildfire. There was like an hour cooldown period where you couldn't like win the belt and then immediately, if you immediately won the belt, you could be challenged. But if you defeated a challenge, like if I had the belt, someone challenged me, I retain it. I can't get challenged for an hour. Just so it wasn't like, because I realized the issue there was the combat staff not getting straight back to their cabins from like meals when we're all congregating together. That was when a lot of challenges went off. I just didn't want like one counselor who might have their other counselor on a day off getting like, just bogged down in challenges as they're trying to lead the dying call and get to their cabin. This summer, I was actually going to be tweaking the rules and bringing it back. Ooh. So I'm a little bit bummed out. I mean, we're all unhappy camp didn't run this summer. But
of course.
It means I've just got something in my back pocket for next year.
That's great. Yeah. And I remember you put a little bit of a spin on it as well. When you were section head, you decided to do a chopstick challenge, right, for your counselors in your section. And that went down really well and it was fun. It was like 2 years ago now, the last summer we did.
Yeah.
As well. I think you brought it back again.
Yeah. So 2014, I did this thing called the Chopstick Challenge, which I'd learned working at Nature's Classroom back in 2012, 2013, in between working at camp. And it was it's basically, it's such a stupid game. It's so simple though. You can't eat anything on camp unless you use chopsticks. You can't touch the food on your plate. You can't go anywhere. It has to go from whatever the container is to your mouth with chopsticks. That was basically the rule. If you didn't, you're out. It's a last person standing competition. I didn't know how well it would go over at camp. So when I was EC, I was like, oh, you know what? We'll try this. It's like third session. Guys might be getting burned out. Let's see how it goes. And they fully embraced it. They went hardcore in it.
There was so many funny things that was happening. Like the counselors would be asking their campers to go up to another staff member, like offer them a sweet or some candy, and then they would take it and they're like, "You didn't use chopsticks," and it's like, "Whoa!" Like sabotaging and all sorts of things. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. So like so the summer of 2018, I was able to come back for a full month. And I was like, right, let's go camp wide with the chopstick challenge.
Yeah.
So I bought like 500 pairs of chopsticks off online, just the basic ones you get from any takeaway. And it was PVC and Northwoods were doing the challenge at the same time. And for me, it was fascinating to see the different approaches. Because really the only two things you need to win the chopstick challenge are willpower and concentration. Like, half the people got out because they just weren't paying attention and ate something. So there was, I think, like one of the last staff meetings we had, that co-ed day, there was a big rivalry between Hayden and Scott.
Yep.
Scott ate some candy corn or something during the day, and Hayden saw him, and Scott was devastated by it.
Oh, he was devastated.
And then that staff meeting, in a very cruel twist of fate, the staff snack happened to be nachos, which you can't really eat with chopsticks. But Hayden had got himself a nice thing of nachos. He'd sat down, he's like filling out his joys. And I look over and I just see Scott stood there at the end of the table. Oh, I see what's happening. So I went up next to him, and Hayden's like doesn't even see us both there. Picks up a chip, eats it, and then just gets yelled at by Scott, going, "Ha ha!" He's like, "What?" He's like, "You're out!" And Hayden's like, his head hit the table. He was devastated because he'd been doing all sorts of stuff. Like, he had his CIP mentee trying to trap counselors. At one point, he kept taking all the chopsticks out of the dining hall where you could get them if you ran out. He didn't realize I still had like another 1,000 in my cabin, so I was just bringing more and more down. Whereas the PVC side were competitive about it, but at no point were they trying to sabotage each other. Like, it was a little bit more supportive, which gave it a little bit more twist. Honestly, people's willpowers and that got broken depending on what the meal was. I remember one meal, 3 different counselors came up and went, "I saw the garlic bread and I was just done."
Yeah.
I just wanted to be able to pick garlic bread up, dip it in sauce, and eat it.
Absolutely.
I was like,
Jack, you were, so Jack's on the call. You was part of this quite a long time, right? Did you make the final or something like that as well?
Not only did I make the final, I think I should have won because Liam cheated.
Oh, controversial. Still going on this challenge.
So I'm just going to break down how my day started. At the start of the day, I was doing ropes, and we had our final, like, end of the summer, like, ropes breakfast. I forget who it was, but someone went out and got dunks.
Yep.
And we all got up really early, made sure, like, there were other counselors in our cabins. And then we just went to the rope shed and ate breakfast together. And it was nice. But I had ordered a bagel, and I remember I completely forgot about, well, like, I had my chopsticks with me, but like I completely forgot about it. And then I was like right about to bite into the bagel, like my teeth were on it. And then Jenny Tampkin screams in my face, "Ha ha, you lose." And then I pull it out of my mouth, show her the bagel, and then I pick up chopsticks and start eating it. She was so mad. It was hilarious. But then later in the day, we had the final challenge, which was, I think it was eating goldfish.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and I was the first person to put all the goldfish in my mouth and swallow the goldfish. I was not the first person to have the goldfish in my mouth, which Liam basically just poured them all in his mouth with the bowl and then just said that he won, which wasn't true. His mouth was full. He couldn't even talk. But I'm fine. I'm not
controversial. Controversial.
controversy.
Yeah, we had all of it. I don't remember one of the EC members was like, I had an ice pole, like, that's water, right? You're not eating that. It's drink. And we're like, oh, what is it? What is it? Who knows?
So for some reason, when it comes to Northwoods, everybody sees a rule and then immediately tries to think of every single loophole around it immediately.
It's creativity.
In terms of questions on what the rules are, if I compared PVC to Northwoods, we're talking about a 1 to 20 ratio of questions. Like every day, there'd be 20 questions from Northwoods. PVC would be like, "Hey, we just had this one," and it would always be a legitimate one. It was never like this nonsense of like, "Oh, it's water." Like, "Oh, how do I eat soup?" And I'm just like, "With chopsticks. You can't eat them with you don't get soup, do you?" Like, it's very clear. That's how it works.
Yeah,
it's great.
But yeah, no, it was an absolute blast. Really happy it went over. A lot of people gave me a lot of hate for it at times because they were still in it, and I made it very clear right from the start. It was completely optional when you decide to bow out. Like, I was not making you do it. You never had to pick up chopsticks in the first place.
Yep.
You could have just been like, I'm already out.
I didn't start it at all. And people were like, why are you not doing it? I was like, I don't get mixed up in OJ's games. Because he's the only one that has fun. He's the only one that's having fun with this. I've known him too long.
But it did boost the staff's morale.
Oh, yeah, it does.
It did what you were hoping it would do, OJ.
Yeah, and that's the point. And also, it united them against a common enemy, which was me. You know, it was a great way of bonding because, like, some of those guys, like, got really close because they were just up against each other, trying to catch each other out all the time. Like, one of the sneaky sabotages was just offering people food that you can't really eat with chopsticks. It wouldn't be an instinctive thing. Like, there's one staff meeting I went around with pretzels and like chocolate covered pretzels and M&Ms. Like, you see a bowl of M&Ms, your immediate reaction is just to grab a handful and go to town. Yeah, and I got a couple people out that way.
Perfect.
You almost got me out that way. I saw through it. I remember, so going back to Hayden, how he was going full send with it. He had convinced, he was a CIT mentor, and he convinced his CIT to sabotage everyone. So every day at the beginning of the meal, his CIT Tommy would come and snap my chopsticks.
Oh.
And it was so satisfying being able to go up to Tommy and tell him that Hayden got out. He was devastated.
Brilliant.
But it was hilarious.
All right, so we got a few minutes left, but we're just kind of moving on. Like you OJ, as most people would know, like as an activity that you would do, you'd be in the wood shop, but you'd also in soccer, and those are your two main things. But what was it like to like work alongside Mike McCarthy, like the legend that he is? Like how is all that? And yeah, what about the activities did you enjoy?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I've definitely chipped out. I've done more activities than just those two because, like, I was normally I taught horseback at one point, like, just because we were showing horseback one day in my first year. And I say taught very loosely. I was basically there to make sure no one fell off a horse. That was it.
Was you there to catch?
But no, honestly, woodshop and soccer were a lot of fun. Soccer, like, I tried to bring the crossbar challenge back. I love doing the staff versus campus soccer games because the kids would get so intense about that. It was always a lot of laugh. But yeah, woodshop was probably my favorite. Working with Mike was extremely educational, and he was always good. Being held to, sometimes he actually learned one or two things off me, I'm happy to say. It was a very rare occasion. But yeah, it was, I ended up doing that my second year. And I think the first session was basically me learning what every single tool is called in the US. Because at the time, everyone that worked in woodshop was either like an international where they vaguely done it, or they were just like, you got thrown in there, or it was a staff member who was a camper and done woodshop the whole time as a camper. So they knew how to do what their projects they had previously worked on, not necessarily overall, where I'd done the equivalent woodshop back home all the way to A level. So from like 11 to 18, I've been doing woodshop every week. So, it's stuff where I'd go up and ask him for like a jigsaw, and he's like, what's that? I'm like, to cut a curve. He's like, oh, coping saw. It's like, yeah, okay, let's go with that. So like, I was just basically calling all the tools wrong. But he quickly learned, that I knew what I was doing. Like, I'd still check in with him because I didn't know the full range of tools we'd have. Like, oh, I couldn't find this, Mike. What's the best way of doing it this way? But yeah, no, honestly, it's so much fun. I still think woodshop's one of the most rewarding activities we do on camp because kids learn more than just building. They learn patience and how to plan out work and like be able to adjust to things, and the work they put in really shows at the end of it.
You get to bring something home that isn't a piece of paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I do. I love that program. I think it is one of our best. And yeah, it's amazing that you've been part of it for so long, which is great. Yeah, so cool. Well, thank you so much for doing that today, OJ. It was really nice to get to talk to you through this format, and it was great. I'm glad you're a listener of the podcast of what we're doing here and being on the call, which is great. But okay, so well, thank you everybody else who's here today listening as well. And if you're on Facebook listening there, thank you for that. And yeah, we'll be back next month and excited to get a new guest to come on. And yeah, we'll have some good times there in January in the new year. So hopefully you all have a good holiday season, and I will see you all later on in 2021. So thank you so much. Bye.
Happy holidays, everybody.